And welcome everybody to week 13 predictions for college football. This is the last week of the regular season, conference championship games next week, and then we'll start to get into everybody's favorite time of the year, bowl games. We'll have lots of bowl games, but first we got to get through this is usually one of the better weeks of football, rivalry week. We're starting off Thanksgiving night. It's Ole Miss taking on Mississippi State. This should be a very interesting game. We're gonna say the high. They'll say 60 degrees on the line. Mississippi is 10-point favorites. This is an interesting game to predict. This is a Mississippi State home game. Mississippi State got a dominant win last week. Mississippi State, they could do something. This is a rivalry game, so I think it'll be closer than the 10-point spread. I think Mississippi State will be able to keep it close, but Ole Miss will prevail. I'll say the final score. It'll be more of a higher score one. Actually, no, I don't have Mississippi State. I think they look good, but I think 10-point spread is just I don't think that's gonna be enough. So I'm gonna say Ole Miss wins 37-24, but I could see Mississippi State jumping out to a lead, kind of like UL Monroe did last week. They didn't jump out to a lead, but they kept it close for the first half, and then Ole Miss kind of gets ahead in the second half. I could definitely see that. We move on to our Black Friday games, and we start off with TCU and Oklahoma. TCU, I think they are a better team than their record shows. They're not great, but they are a better team than their record says they are. But yeah, they've definitely fell off. They have not been great last season. Everything kind of perfectly aligned, but this year it hasn't been that way. They've dropped down to 5-6. They're 3-5 in the Big 12. Oklahoma, they need to win this game. They need Oklahoma State to lose to make it to the Big 12 title game. 10.5 point spread. I like TCU, but I think Oklahoma will cover this spread. They want to look as good as possible, and I think Oklahoma will win this game 41-24. A bit of a higher scoring one. Does that get? Yeah, I think that reaches the over by just a little bit, and Oklahoma will win that one. Next up, well, this one, it's not called the Corn Bowl, but this is the Corn Bowl. It's Iowa taking on Nebraska. This is the Big 12 on CBS game. This game is going to be terrible. The over-under is 26.5. That might be a new record low. I got to check. I think the last record low was 27.5. I have to go check that. But Nebraska 2-point favorites. Iowa though they look not great. Their offense sucks. Their defense is spectacular. I think Iowa has the better defense than Nebraska. I'm gonna take Iowa. Low scoring game. I'm gonna say 16-12. Iowa wins the Corn Bowl. Moving on to our 3:30 games, you've got UTSA taking on Tulane. This is a big game for Tulane. If they want to stay in the New Year's Six bowl picture, they gotta be able to win this game. UTSA, they started off with 0-3. They lost all of their non-conference games, and then in conference play, they've went 7-0. They've looked great since that since those a couple of losses, those bad non-conference losses. They're taking on Tulane. I think Tulane does not look great. Close games against teams that shouldn't be close games. UTSA, they've gotten hot quickly and at a good time. I'm gonna say UTSA wins this game. Bit of a higher scoring one. We'll say final score is 35-32. UTSA wins on a game-winning field goal. Next up, we've got 4 o'clock SEC on CBS. We've got Missouri taking on Arkansas. This will definitely be a higher scoring game. Definitely Missouri 7.5 point favorites. I do think they cover this game. Their offense just has more firepower, and I'll say Missouri wins this game. Not easily, but they'll get the job done. I'll say the final score will be probably Let's see. Final score. It'll be a bit high scored. I'll see 38-28 is the final score. It'll be a really fun game. 7:30. We've got Texas Tech taking on Texas. This is an interesting game. Texas Tech, they're better than what their record says. They won a couple of games. They're 5-3 in conference play. This could be a difficult game for Texas, but I think Texas, they'll be able to prevail. I'll say Texas. I don't think they'll cover the 12.5 point spread. I think this game will be very close, but I'm going to take Texas to win this game. I think this will be probably one of Texas's higher scoring games in the last couple of weeks. They haven't had a lot of higher scoring ones. We'll say 33-24. Texas keeps it close. Texas Tech keeps it close. They will not be able to win this game. Next up, we got Penn State taking on Michigan in Ford Field. Penn State, man, they can't get it done against the big teams, but they'll be whoever they need to be. And with that being said, Penn State being 21-point favorites, I think Penn State will cover that spread, and I think Penn State wins this game probably 33-6. Michigan State is terrible on all accounts. That should not be a close game. Next up, we got Oregon State taking on Oregon, the game of the night, Black Friday. I'll be streaming this game, by the way, just in case you want to watch. It'll be fun. Oregon 14-point favorites. I think this game will be close. I think this game will actually be really close. But I think Oregon will win this game. I'll say 41-35 in overtime. Oregon wins it. I think this could be a crazy game. I think Bo Nix goes off. They'll try to feed Bo Nix as much as possible. They are trying to get Bo Nix that Heisman Trophy. Because of the Heisman Trophy, it brings recruits. It gets the social media followers, and it can really help boost your program. I mean, Oregon already has a really big program, but I mean it could boost it even more. I think Oregon wins this game very high scoring, and I think Bo Nix has a really good game. And we'll see what happens. But yeah, we'll be streaming that game live, and we'll see if my prediction holds up. Into the Saturday slate of games, we are starting off with the game. Ohio State, Michigan will be on this one. It'll be 37 degrees in Ann Arbor. It's gonna be a cold one. Ohio State, Michigan. This is the game. If Michigan loses their game, they're most likely out of the CFP. If Ohio State loses this game, they still have some life, but they'll need some stuff to happen. But I think that Ohio State, even with Kyle McCord being very iffy, I think Ohio State wins this game. I'm taking Michigan is 3 point favorites. I'm taking Ohio State outright to win this game. I think this will be a really fun game. This might be one of the higher scoring games these teams have just saying. Well, I say that just because of the fact that when both these teams played Penn State, they were very low scoring. So I guess this game I think will be a bit higher score. Not that high scoring, but there'll be some points scored. I'll say 28-24 is the final. I just think Ohio State, they just overall have they have better weapons. You've got Marvin Harrison, Emeka Egbuka. You've got Chip Trainum, Travion Henderson. They're just a really complete team on all sides of the ball. I think Kyle McCord will play a good enough game for them to be able to win. Next up, we've got Kentucky taking on Louisville. This is an interesting game because I could definitely see an upset happening. Kentucky, they're not a scrub. They are by far not a bad team. Going up against Louisville, this game will be in Louisville. This is a big rivalry game. I'm gonna Louisville 7 point favorites. I think that's too high. I do think Louisville will be able to capture this game though. I think Louisville will win this one. Well, I guess I have a lot of higher scoring games this week because I'm gonna say this game will probably be a final score about 33-27. 33. We'll say 33-28. I think Louisville wins this game. Louisville, if Jake Plummer can play a good enough game, Jordan on the ground, if he looks good, yeah, Louisville's definitely got it. Next up, we've got LSU taking on Texas A&M. This game, it doesn't mean that much just in terms of the college football playoff rankings or anything. But this is still an interesting game. 7-4 Texas A&M, 8-3 LSU. Jaden Daniels trying to be able to get the Heisman. He looks like he could definitely do it. They've got to keep his momentum going. LSU 11-point favorites, and I think LSU will win this game. I think it'll be a bit of definitely higher scoring. I'll say 49-33. I've got LSU beating Texas A&M. LSU is just going to allow points. We know that that's just how this team operates with that defense. We know they're gonna allow points, but I think they'll be able to outscore. Well, of course they're gonna be able to outscore LSU, and I think they'll take that game on to the 3:30 CBS game, the Iron Bowl. This is the 3:30 SEC on CBS game. We'll be streaming the Iron Bowl too. This could be a very interesting game. Alabama 14.5 point favorite. We know what happened last 2 years ago. Alabama was 10-1. Auburn was 6-5 in Jordan Hare Stadium 2 years ago. Bryce Young got bottled. Auburn almost won that game. That game went into like 4 overtimes, and Alabama won like 24-22. It was a great game. Not really. It was a great game in overtime. That game was a drag to watch. Alabama 14.5 point favorites. I think this game will be a bit closer. Not very close, but it'll be closer than people expect. As an Alabama fan, am a bit worried, but after that Auburn showing against New Mexico State, even though I do think they'll play better, it's kind of just made me think even more like, yeah, I think Alabama's got this one. I think they'll win 31-20. It'll be interesting. I think Alabama will win this game, but I do not think they will cover this spread, which could be very interesting. Even because if they beat Georgia, but they don't cover the spread against Auburn, that could be an interesting talking point if we get to the CFP. But we're getting too far ahead of ourselves, I guess. Uh, Next up on the schedule, we've got Arizona taking on Arizona State. Arizona, they destroyed Utah last week. They've played well the last couple of games. I could see this game being a bit closer. This game will definitely be high scoring. I'll take Arizona to win this one. We'll say 34-27. I think Arizona State will play this game competitively, but I do not think they will win this game. Next up, we got this is a big game for Oklahoma State. Win and they are in to the Big 12 title game. They're playing BYU. We saw what BYU was able to do against Oklahoma. They almost won that game. Now, of course, you can put an asterisk on it. It was in Utah. It was a 10 a.m. Central Start Time, which hadn't happened in like 20 something years. So yes, you can put an asterisk on it, but they looked good, and I think that BYU pulls off the upset. They go into Stillwater, they pull off the upset, and I think Oklahoma will get into the Big 12 title game. They'll get a bit lucky. They'll get into the Big 12 title game. I think BYU wins this game. This will be a lower scoring one, definitely. I think BYU win this game 24-19. A bit of a weird score there. Next up, we've got Vanderbilt taking on Tennessee. Vanderbilt is an absolute crapshoot. We thought maybe they could be decent. They started off the year 2-0, didn't they? In their non-conference games, and they've looked terrible ever since. They're a complete crapshoot. Tennessee's 27-point favorites. After getting whooped by Georgia, they should be able to have some kind of life, and I think Tennessee will win this game by a large margin. I'll say 56-3. They'll destroy Vanderbilt. Next up, we've got ranked Liberty taking on UTEP. I can't see this game being close at all. Salter, the QB for Caden Salter, the QB for Liberty. He looks really good. As well as Quentin Cooley for Liberty. That he looks really good as well. Liberty looks like a really good football team. This is this could be interesting, but I think Liberty will cover this 16.5 point spread. I think they'll win by 20 points. I'll say they win 30-10. Next up, we've got the Apple Cup. It's Washington taking on Washington State. Washington 16.5 point favorites. I definitely could see this game a bit closer. I do not think Washington will cover this spread. 68.5 over under, and this could go over it. This is going to be a really high scoring game. If you like offense, you want to tune in for this game. This is going to be a really fun game to watch. But I think Washington, they'll pull it off. It'll be higher scoring, but I think they'll pull it off. It'll be fun. I think they'll pull this game off 43-35 in a closer game that they win in a higher scoring one. Next up, we've got Florida State taking on Florida, the battle for Florida. This is the ESPN game, college football primetime game. And this should be a very good. I think this could be a very good game. FSU 6.5 point favorites. Florida, they looked really good against Missouri. They almost were able to win that game. And I think Florida, they'll definitely give a fight to Florida State. I don't think Florida will win. I think Florida State will get it done. 27-24. They'll win that game. And then they'll go on and play Louisville in the ACC title game. Next up, well, they've already clinched that. Yeah, they'll look ahead to next week after that win. Next up, we've got Notre Dame taking on Stanford. This game is crapshoot for Notre Dame fans because it's on the Pac-12 network instead of the game being on like Peacock or something. It's on the Pac-12 network. This game is going to be terrible as well. Notre Dame 26 point favorites. I don't think I even need to explain myself. Notre Dame is going to win this game probably like 50-14, maybe 50. We'll say 50-21. Stanford can score a little bit of points. Next up, we've got Georgia taking on Georgia Tech. This is the 7:30 Saturday night primetime game on the ABC. Georgia 24 point favorites, and I think they continue to roll. They beat Georgia Tech, and they'll win this game dominantly. They'll win this game 38-13. Next up, we've got Clemson taking on South Carolina. Clemson 7 point favorites. I think Clemson, they're ranked now. Clemson will get this game done. It'll be an interesting one, but they'll get this game done. I'll say final score 24 to no, we'll say 26-21. Clemson wins. I will say Kansas State, the battle of the underrateds here. I'm gonna take Kansas State. They are 10 point favorites, and I think Kansas State will win by 10 points. I think Kansas State wins 30-20. And in the last game, rivalry week, it's on the ACC network, and this should be a really good one. It's North Carolina taking on North Carolina State. I can see this being a really good game. North Carolina 2.5 point favorites, and I think North Carolina does win this game over NC State. It should be a really fun one. I'll say they'll win this game 30-24. But yeah, that's it. That's all we got for the video. Those are all the college football picks and predictions for Rivalry Week. It should be a very fun week in Rivalry Week. And yeah, that's about it for the video. We'll see y'all in the next video. Peace out.